Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Biz Chat with Lisa. Today, my guest is Jerrad Havins of Credilife, and we are going to be talking about credit repair, getting ready to buy a house, and how that all works, and all of that. So I'm very happy to have Jerrad on the show with us again. And I just want you to know that this episode is brought to you by Perfect Virtual Assistants, where we help you buy back your time as an entrepreneur, CEO, whatever the case may be, by helping you find Filipino virtual assistants to help you with the back end support of your business. And they start at about $8 to $10 an hour. So anyway, welcome. Welcome, Jerrad. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. Very good. Very good.
We're going to dive in a little bit to credit repair. I mean, everybody wants to buy a house. If they haven't, a lot of people, we should talk about that for a minute. A lot of people are stuck, for lack of a better word. They don't think they can buy a house because they have crappy credit, or they're just not paying attention because they feel like they're not going to get anywhere anyway. But that is not the truth. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I'm excited when we're connecting to talk about, a topic for today. Like, I think it's important for people to understand like how credit repair actually works, especially with like how much is out there. You have TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and you have all these social media platforms. And, me being in the industry, a lot of this probably pops up on my feed just because I'm in the industry. But I see, the type of content that's constantly being put out there. And what I found, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today, what I found is a lot of times people, they kind of push content that's a little bit misleading and utilizing strategies that aren't really that effective but sound really good, because they're trying to pull in some clients, But sure. I just felt like, going through and really breaking down how credit repair actually works is just, it's invaluable information. So if anyone is struggling, if anyone has had a blemish on their credit report, this should help them understand that credit repair itself is a perfect tool to utilize to help repair that, which then can help jumpstart them into having better credit profile and better credit scores to then get into the home.
Well, okay, we're going to get into that, but I also want you to dispel, not myths or whatever, but the difference between what you're teaching and what you're actually seeing.
Okay.
I actually know somebody who had a really huge following on TikTok because she got herself out of debt and did everything on her own. And she just started talking about it, and she ended up creating a huge following. But
that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. I like to watch a lot of podcasts around that too. People more about the financial management and financial wellness, which all that goes hand in hand. Like Credilife, we talk about, for us, our mission is to help people change their relationship with money and debt. Because the reality is money and debt, it all goes hand in hand, even though technically it's a little bit different when it comes to credit scores and credit reporting versus how you manage your money. But the reality is they all flow together and they impact one another. So it's really nice to, that I love content like that of people that have gone through the process of getting out of debt, understanding how to, put themselves in a better position for their future. Because the reality is our country is run on debt, so like it's just very natural for people to accumulate a lot of debt. And so having that type of knowledge as well is very powerful. Yeah, but there's a lot of misconceptions for sure out there of credit. I'd say credit repair itself, it either has like this misconception or, being in the industry, I'm sure you've heard it. Like a lot of times people may have had a bad experience with the company. So there's like a little bit of like a dark cloud over it sometimes, So like, that's why I like to, dive in and like explain how it really works so people can understand like, oh, this is a viable solution and it's not what I thought.
Yeah, I don't want to name companies, but I can't even remember the name of the companies where a lot of people, I used to get a lot of leads from people that weren't really well qualified, and they all used the same credit repair company who was not doing anything for them. They just didn't do anything. So anyway, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So how does credit repair really work?
Okay, so for us at Credilife, our methodology is called a factual technical investigation process. That is the technical term.
Say that again. A factual
technical investigation process.
Okay.
really all that means, like to really kind of break this down for everyone like listening to this, the very first thing you need to understand is that when it comes to credit reporting, so you have TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. View them as Nike, Reebok, Adidas. They are a for-profit company. They're very large companies, and they are competitors. So even though like you heard,
I didn't even know that. I didn't know they were for profit company.
They are for-profit, and when they label as credit bureaus, I think that automatically people kind of assume maybe it's like, government driven. They are. Yeah, and it's not. Think of it, they're like Amazon. Like they're the king of data. They've been the kings of data, and they make money on data for like the longest time.
Super interesting.
Yeah, so that's how it works. And like when information's coming in, just view it like this. Like, if you have a Capital One credit card, and let's say you miss a payment. Okay. Think about it like this. If you've ever missed a payment, did you ever receive a phone call from TransUnion, Experian, Equifax being like, hey, did this really happen? Can you go through and verify this? No, they are going to automatically assume what is being reported to them is accurate. They're going to essentially tie that to your file, your report, and they're going to sell your information for a fee. And so because of that, because they're so widely used, especially for lending purposes and other purposes, but primarily lending, that's why laws have been put into place to protect the consumer, to allow them, it's their legal right, and they have the ability to challenge information on their credit reports because of the fact the way it's sent to them, there's no real verification process happening. They're just going to assume it's accurate, and they're going to sell that information for a fee.
Okay, so I did not know that. And that just makes so much more sense. And if you do know that, then you can understand that it's easier to challenge. It's not fact. It's not necessarily fact.
That's exactly right. And if you think about it, in most cases, I'd say at least for the clients that we serve, a lot of times it's either someone or a couple or a family. They typically have either gone through like an event in their life. It could have been a medical event. It could have been a job loss. Usually something happened in the past that led to blemishes or negative reporting on their credit reports. So the one thing I explain to clients is like, okay, so when we go through and let's say we're analyzing and reviewing a credit reports, we're not going through it in a way of saying this did not happen to you. We're not saying that this account was not yours unless it truly wasn't. But let's just say in this case it is. We're not going and disputing it, saying like, this isn't mine, I never had this, this is fraud, none of that. What it comes down to is analyzing the specifics of the account and how it's reporting between all three bureaus. And what in most cases that you find, which we find all the time, is that there are discrepancies in reporting between the three bureaus. So an example could be, let's say you did have a late payment like 2 years ago. Well, it's not uncommon to see that maybe one of them, like TransUnion, is showing a late payment that happened in like February of 2024, but Experian and Equifax are showing March of 2024. That would be a discrepancy. There could be a situation of a balance history being different. There could be data last payment being different. There could be data last update that's different. And so because of that, that just kind of proves that just because it's on your report doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate and verifiable as of today. So that's the process, is going through and challenging these, they're called aspects. So we're challenging aspects of the account and the reporting history in a way that now puts the onus back on the bureaus and the creditor to have to go back and verify that reporting history as of today. That's the difference.
So
and at any point that, yeah, so you as a consumer, exactly. So the consumer is exercising their legal right to put the onus back on the credit bureaus and the creditor to go back and verify what they reported in the past as of today.
Do they want to do that? Will they do that? Or will they
100%.
They will do it.
Yes. Okay. Yes, they will. Now, there are times dependent on like the type of letter. So like here, obviously with technology, especially with AI now. So this is where like, let's say like you go online and you get like credit repair templates. It's not uncommon if someone has like purchased a template online, like on a TikTok or something like that. Well, they have an analysis that comes in. It's called eOscar. And so what happens is if they notice like a very similar template that's coming through, they may actually do a response like, hey, this seems like it didn't come from you. We need you to actually go through and send another updated letter. There are times that you may get some pushback from the bureaus. That's why it's important to structure letters in a way that's more custom and more specific to the reporting history, not like a template, because it could trigger that kickback system. So like for us, when we're going through, we're doing that analysis, and everything that we write is very specific to that client, the history, and the report itself.
Okay, that's just a really good tip right there. Yes. Don't design templates.
Yeah, and if you were to get a template, you really want to make it your own. Then
just alter it. Like we
don't assume that the template itself is going to help you. It's a foundation, I would say, and I would have to see the template to say if it's good or not. But let's just assume it is. Well, if it is, you would still want to make sure that you alter it to be very specific to your situation, your credit reports, and make sure you kind of need to make it your own, so to speak.
Okay, great. All right, so keep going.
Okay, well, yeah, definitely will. So yeah, and that, I think that's the most important piece is like, think about it like this. The credit bureaus, they sell our information for a fee.
Yeah.
So like when you go to buy a home and the loan officer pulls credit report, it costs money. Right now it costs a ton of money. I think it's like $75 a 3 bureau pull right now for a loan officer. It's gone up a lot, but it all costs money. When you receive pre-approval offers in the mail, marketing, they purchase that data from the bureaus, marketing data, to then market to you credit card offers. So like literally the bureaus, they're constantly making money on our data. That's what they do. Right. And so once again, because of that, that's why we have to exercise our legal rights to go through and challenge. This could be late payments. This could be a collection. This could be account that went to collection that's shown as charged off. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are anything on your report. It could be address history. It could be name variation. It could be work history. Anything that's on your credit report, technically you can challenge as a consumer. It's your legal right. Okay. And so for us, that's why we'd want to hone in on what's kind of weighing down the score. What's like that negative reporting. And we have to understand like the types of accounts too. Like for instance, to give you an example, if you were to look at your credit report and you look at like, let's say it's a Capital One credit card that went into charge-off status. It went to collection in the past. You went through an event in your life, couldn't make payments, couldn't keep up, and ultimately goes to collection. Well, on that account, it would show up as Capital One, right? You'd have a history. It'd have a coding of like charged off, went to collection. But below that, you would see what's called a payment history. Typically, it goes back 24 months. So even though in the credit report it goes back 7 years and 120 days, any late payments within that timeline can impact you. But it's really the past 24 months that have the largest impact. So a lot of times on the credit report, they're only going to show like the legend of 24 months. But if you look at a collection as an example, a collection would then show up as a collection, but there would be no 24-month payment history. Because technically, when it's sent to a collection company, and if they report, there are no payment terms with them. There were payment terms in place in a contract with Capital One, as an example, but now that it went to Midland Credit Management, there are no payment terms. It's simply a collection. Now, it's not uncommon that you might see in that legend, they may have updated some coding in that 24-month payment history, which then that's inaccurate. They can't do that. If they were to ever do that, shows if there was a payment that was made, then it wasn't. That's called re-aging. That's technically illegal. So like these are all the things that can happen to someone. And so for us, we want to empower clients to be able to go through the factual technical investigation process, which we do on our clients' behalf. And we begin to go through and kind of clean this up. The goal is to get things permanently deleted off the credit reports. That's the goal. And the reason why that happens, to kind of piggyback once again around them selling this for a fee, it's because when it's found to be no longer verifiable as of today, they can no longer sell it. So they must remove it. Okay. That's why it's deleted. It's because they can no longer furnish and sell that information for a fee.
Okay, well, let's talk about in the case. So this Capital One charged off, but it's accurate. But let's say it's accurate. How do you get it off your credit report? Can you still get it off your credit report?
You definitely can. Yeah.
You can.
Yes, okay. You definitely can.
That's what I thought, but I didn't know how. So
Yeah, and it would be going through that process and just challenging aspects of the history, because there may be a time
Okay.
that they're unable to verify. So at any point they're unable to, whether due to them not doing their due diligence or not replying or replying in a way that shows that there is an inaccuracy, all that deems it as no longer verifiable, and the bureau's then deleted off the report.
So when I asked you, will they reply? Will they do it? And they will reply. So they have to do that in a timely fashion.
Yep. So you initiate through the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus then take in that request. They'll process that request. And as soon as they process it, there's a 30-day legal timeline that
30
starts.
days.
And
Okay.
so in that 30-day timeline, this is where people get a little confused when they look this up online, is they think that they need to reply to the consumer. No, that 30-day timeline is between the bureau and the creditor in question. If there is at that point, the onus,
Oh,
yeah. And then at the end of that 30-day timeline, based on the responses that come back to the bureaus, being they are all separate. So if you think about it in this Capital One situation, they're getting hit up by Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, all three, for this one account now. So they have to go through and reply to all three within that 30 days.
that sounds like a pain in the ass, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, I always like to hone in for people to understand, like, especially here in Minnesota, I would say that in Minnesota, we have the highest average FICO credit score in the nation.
Are you serious? The
Is
average highest FICO score?
Is Minnesota. Yeah.
What is the average highest FICO score?
I think for Minnesota, I think like the average, I'd have to look it up, but I'm fairly certain it's like 754 or something like that.
Pretty good.
And so, yeah, we're the highest in the nation when it comes to FICO. But one thing that I've noticed, really every area is a little bit different, but like in Minnesota specifically, I would say that we're naturally just a little bit more conservative when it comes to debt. And that there's a lot of, like, the way we're raised, especially I would say people a little bit my age and older, you kind of are raised in a way like you pay your debts.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
because of that, and that's not a bad thing. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing at all. But when you've gone through like an event in your life, because of that, the way you're raised, you're going to naturally kind of think like, well, I just need to go and pay my debts, and that shows that I can pay my debts and I'm good now. Well, the problem is paying off accounts that are derogatory, meaning charged off or in collection, doesn't mean they go away. In fact, every payment that you make is updating the account's history and activity, which actually lowers your FICO credit score, for one. So it actually brings it down. And then on top of that, if you pay it off, it's going to show there as paid off, right? But it's still in your history.
So
then
bad debt piece is still there.
Exactly. So like the model of or the concept of paying things off is good, but when you've gone through an event in your life that led to bad credit, it's about strategy and timing. So like for us, what we'd want to do is first investigate, attempt to delete, then go in and settle for the least amount to save the most amount of money. But the fact is, it's been deleted. So now you've put yourself in a position to actually improve your credit score and credit profile faster, instead of just shelling out money and going backwards and now having a longer journey to get back on track. So that's how this all kind of comes together.
So when I'm dealing with buyers, and I deal with a lot of home buyers and who don't have great credit, and they'll often say, "Oh, I have this collection. I need to get it paid off." And I have actually learned from you and Rick to say, before you do that, I want you to talk to some people. If you've got some credit issues, just don't do it. I need you to talk to Credilife.
And that's
have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I mean, think about it too. I mean, just in like a human element piece, when you're motivated to buy a home and you're being told, let's say by someone else, like, hey, you got to pay off this collection. Well, let's say your score, you're just barely there, right? Let's say you're at like a 640 middle score. Well, the issue is, how bad would you feel on the other end to be told to go pay off that collection? You now paid money to do that. And then when they go to repull credit, your scores have gone down, and now you don't qualify because your scores are too low. That happens to a lot of people. And so that's why it's so important
would make anybody angry.
Well, yeah, because you were like, dude, I thought I was doing the right thing, and now I'm even worse. I'm in a worse place. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
it's almost like this. You
This
almost
is,
have to throw common sense out the window with credit. You have to, when you have bad credit, you have to like put your common sense. It's not common. Like to rebound from it, it's a different strategy that's required to effectively rebound quickly versus what common sense would say, which is, hey, just pay this all off so you can move on. It doesn't work that way because it's still within the history. And if it's negative, your scores will remain low. So that's why it's so important to clean that up.
oh, this is such good information. Okay. So you go in and you do all of this stuff for people. And then how long, if somebody's, let's say, and you probably, well, you'll have an answer for it, but um, how long does it typically take somebody to go through a credit repair process? Does it depend on, can you answer that in terms of, well, if your credit score is at this, or does it really depend? And I'm answering I know the answer. It really depends on how much stuff is on.
It really does depend, so like I can say on average, like for us, we've helped thousands of people. So Credit Life, we established in 2015. We've helped thousands of people get into homes since. And so we definitely have enough data to kind of look at like, the average length of time. And the
Yeah.
average length of time is around 6 months. So that's taking in everything into consideration for, and it really depends. Like if you're thinking, well, what about me? Because that's going to be the question that someone's naturally going to have for themselves. Like, well, what about me? They might think, well, I'm different. I have a different case.
Sure.
So like the way you have to look at it is a few factors. One, how many accounts do we have that are technically negative? That's going to play a role. So for us, there's nothing within the law that states that you have to challenge one account at a time or two accounts at a time. That doesn't exist. So for us, we attack everything at once because credit repair for us is a tool that's used in the overall program to get you to your goal. It's not the only tool, it's a part of the plan. So for us, the quicker we can get that repair work done, the easier it becomes for us to do the other work that's important to get them credit ready to buy. So like there's that piece, but then there's going to be a natural component of how much debt do you have in general? Do you have credit cards with higher balances that are in good standing, but they're higher balances and that utilization is impacting the score? We have to take that into consideration. So there's all these other pieces involved, but I would say in most cases, someone can see a significant improvement. And many times, if they follow the program correctly and they engage, they need to be engaged with us. We do a ton of work for
Sure.
them, but they got to be engaged.
Right.
6 months, you could go from not qualified to qualified.
That's a really short period of time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know how long it takes to buy a house, to find a house, all of that kind of stuff. And I've talked to people who think, oh, it's going to take years to do this,
Yep.
or they've been trying to do it on their own, and they're probably not attacking it like you do all at once, everything, knowing all the things.
Yeah.
So you said other things that you take into consideration after you're working on that credit repair. So you're talking about credit card balances, things like that. Are there any other things that you're looking at that you can tell our viewers?
Yeah, definitely. So like I always let clients know it's a three-prong approach. So we need to repair the past, we need to
Mm-hmm.
effectively build credit, and then we
Okay.
need to manage the debt where it is. Meaning,
Right.
do we have any debt reduction that we need to work on? Is there any debt settlement that's needed? Like let's say there are collections out there that get deleted. Remember, we want to delete first, then settle. Well, we need
Mm-hmm.
to be prepared for that in the plan. Because if we don't settle those accounts after deletion, there's a chance that that collection could get sold and then
Oh,
re-reported, which then
sure.
would hurt your score again. So like the permanent fix is delete, settle, now you're good, right? So like we have to take all this into consideration in the overall plan for the client to make sure that when they're done with the program, they're credit ready, they're down payment ready, they're ready to buy. And it wasn't a band-aid, it was a permanent fix so they can actually move forward in their life. Like that's what we're doing.
Well, and I know this is part of your philosophy, that builds a foundation for future financial wellness.
Exactly. We want to set people up. We don't want repeat business. Do we get
Right.
it? Yes, because human nature, things happen in life, right? But the way we've always felt from the very beginning is we don't want repeat business.
Yeah.
We want people to graduate from a program to get the house, to build towards a financial future, and they can work on their other goals, whether it be retirement, could be investment properties. As we know, good credit unlocks opportunity. So like that's what we're trying to do with our clients. We want to get them in that position so they can hit their immediate goal, but then open up the doors to other things for their future and their family,
This is so great. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what it's all about. Nobody wants to be cash poor and have crappy credit and not be able to move forward with things. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
And then think about it. It is a struggle, when you've gone through credit challenges, it is a struggle because if you do get approved for something, you're paying significantly higher fees. Credit scores play a large role in insurance now. For a while, auto insurance, not all states, but most, your credit score plays a direct role in your insurance premium. So you're just naturally paying more for everything. So that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so that, like, to me, these are the things that are so important in that overall financial wellness piece is, we help people get into homes all the time. But I also know that we've saved them a ridiculous amount of money ongoing because that better score, that better credit profile, they pay less, which opens up more cash flow that they can use towards things that they want, their future.
Get a better rate on a car.
Exactly. Better rate. And we know auto's crazy now. The price of auto gone up just like homes, right? The interest rates, all of that, the cost of auto. That's why they've had to extend the terms on them and everything.
Well, and another reason for better credit scores, a lot of employers are pulling credit.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. That's a whole nother topic. But
yeah. So it plays a large role, as we all know. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. We're about at time. Thank you, Jerrad.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
We will have. Well, do you want to just? How can people get a hold of you? We will have all your contact information in the notes after.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, they can just reach out. They just go to our website, credilife.com. It's myself and a full team here. I'm actively involved with my team and all of our clients. I have people, like when you reach out, just to kind of give you an idea, if you reach out, you'll get connected with a FICO certified coach like Rick, who's been on the show. Yeah. There's Chris, there's Jeremy, there's Tyler, there's myself. And so the goal for us is that initial consultation is no charge. And we're going to do that full analysis. We're going to take a deep dive when it comes to the credit report, what's going on, what are your goals, what are the timelines around the goals, which is how we're able to craft the overall plan for you. And at that point, it's like, hey, we have programs that fit those needs. The client then can make an informed decision, like, this sounds great, let's get started. And then we get going. So it's a very streamlined process, but just know in that consult, we take our time. So just know it takes about 45 minutes because it's not a sales pitch. We're not calling you going, okay, here's how much it costs, let's get you in the program. No, it's like, let's first do an analysis of like what's actually going on. Are you going to be a good fit for the program? Are we a good solution for you? We have to figure that out first. And then from there, we can then move forward with a program that makes sense.
Great. And keep in mind, this is a free call.
Exactly.
It doesn't, no obligation to talk with Jerrad and his team. So, yep. All right, Jerrad, we'll see you next month.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on. Have a great day, everyone.